How's it going, folks? You're very welcome to today's lesson on glaciers. In yesterday's lesson we looked in detail at a feature of glacial erosion, and that was a cirque, the armchair shaped hollow in a mountain. Today we're going to briefly look at two other features of glacial erosion, and then we're going to look in detail at a feature of glacial deposition. So the feature of glacial erosion we're going to look at quickly is in front of us right now, and that's a U-shaped valley. Okay, and a U-shaped valley is called a U-shaped valley because, as you can see, it is shaped like a U. And it's basically formed, guys, by a glacier. As a glacier is moving down the mountain under the force of gravity, it erodes. And how does it erode? Remember, guys, it erodes by plucking and by abrasion. So by plucking bits of the rock, the ice plucks bits of the rock as it moves over it, and abrasion, the ice acts as kind of sandpaper, grinding the rock off the surface. Okay, now how does the glacier move again? Well, the glacier moves by gravity. So glaciers are often up in mountainous areas, and if you're on a mountain, you're going to move downwards by gravity. Okay. So if we go on to the next slide here's a little diagram of how a glacier would move and transport. So as the glacier moves, it erodes the rock. Okay, again, plucking and abrasion occur, and they erode the rock from what was a V-shaped valley to form a U-shaped valley. So, you know, if you think this, guys, if you look here at the diagram, this was a V-shape, this valley, but as the glacier moved down via plucking and abrasion, it eroded it, and it eroded the floor by abrasion, and it eroded the sides by plucking to form a more U-shape. Okay, and an example in Ireland is in Glendalough in County Wicklow. Okay, well, how does the glacier get there in the first place? Well, guys, remember, you know, these U-shaped valleys aren't being formed in Ireland to this day. These were formed maybe 100,000 years ago when Ireland was undergoing the ice age. Okay, so when there was large deposits of snow and ice in Ireland and large amounts of glaciers around Ireland. Okay, and what happens then is as the glacier moves down, it erodes our V-shaped valley and erodes it into a U-shape. Okay, now here in front of us we have a U-shaped valley, but it is full of water, and this is called a fjord. Okay, so this is another feature of glacial erosion, a fjord. Now, how come there's water in that valley? Well, think about it, guys. What happens to ice when it completely melts? So that whole landmass there was once completely covered by ice. Okay, and when the ice age ended and the ice started to completely melt, the ice turned to water, and hence why we have got fjords. So a fjord is a U-shaped valley that has been flooded or drowned, which means it's full of water. Okay, again, a fjord is formed, a U-shaped valley is eroded from a V-shaped valley by plucking and abrasion. When the ice sheets melts, the valley becomes drowned, forming a fjord. Okay, and fjords are often found near the coastline. Okay, so where the water level rises at the coastline, it'll flood our fjord like this. An example of a fjord in Ireland is in Killary Harbour in County Mayo. Okay, so there are two more quick features of glacial erosion that we must be able to recognize. Okay, now we're going to move on to a feature of glacial deposition, and we must know a feature of glacial erosion in detail. That's our cirque, and a feature of glacial deposition in detail. And that's going to be our drumlin in front of us. Okay. Now, what does deposition or to deposit something mean? Well, look to the top right of the slide here, guys. To deposit something is to drop something. Okay, and what happens is as we know, a glacier carries material. What's the material carried in a glacier called? It's called a moraine. If we look here, guys, we can see our lateral moraines. There are ground moraines as well, and there are medial moraines in the middle. Okay, now this material, is it going to be carried by the glacier forever? No. What happens to glaciers eventually? Eventually, guys, when the weather changes, when the climate changes, a glacier will melt, so it'll drop or deposit, okay, that word deposit, very important word. It'll deposit its material. Okay, and very often a glacier deposits its material and it forms what's called a drumlin. So a drumlin is an oval shaped hill made of boulder clay. Guys, boulder clay is just the simple material that a glacier carries, and that's basically rock, bits of earth, bits of mountain, that kind of thing. Okay, a drumlin forms when melting ice deposits a large mound of boulder clay under the glacier. Okay, so look to the bottom right here, guys. Here we have our glacier. It's moving from left to right, and as it moves, okay, it drops a big mound of boulder clay here. Okay, and then the glacier, as it moves, will the weight of the glacier will smoothen out the boulder clay to form a drumlin. Okay, So basically, guys, as the glacier moves, it drops boulder clay when it melts, and then the glacier acts as like a rolling pin and smoothens out the boulder clay, okay? And on the left-hand side, where the boulder clay is first dropped, you've got a stoss, and this is the steep side, okay? And S for stoss, S for steep, simple to remember. The boulder clay has been dropped, and as the glacier moves, it has like a rolling pin effect and flattens and smoothens the boulder clay out. And then on the smooth side here, as the ice continued to flow, it formed a gentle lee side, and the lee faces the direction in which the ice is traveling. Okay, if we look up here, guys, here's a picture of an actual drumlin. In this case, though, the glacier was obviously moving the opposite direction, because on the right-hand side, we've got the steep stoss side, we've got the boulder clay, and that boulder clay was smoothened out as the glacier moved from right to left, and that smoothened it out and flattened to form the lee, and that's kind of our rolling pin motion there, okay? Now, drumlins can usually occur in groups or swarms, making what are called a basket of eggs, okay? And in Ireland, there's a very famous example of this in Clew Bay, so like basically a group of drumlins, okay? Sometimes drumlins can be formed on a coast. So drumlins on a coast were submerged or drowned as the sea level rose, okay? So if drumlins are formed on a coastline, guys, again, that glacier, what's it doing to form these drumlins? It's melting. And as it melted, when it melts, that's going to cause the sea level to rise. Okay, think of the ice caps melting, the sea level rises. Okay, and what happens then is these drumlins now look like little flat islands. Okay, so like the top of the drumlins, you know, are kind of poking their head up through the water. And there's a very famous example of this in Clew Bay in County Mayo. You can see where the top of the drumlins have kind of emerged from the water. Okay, so folks, what I want us to do now, you'll see that on our next slide, is I want you to draw and explain how a drumlin is formed in detail. I'm going to use the deep D. So define what it is, give an example, explain what it is, name the processes involved, and draw a diagram. Okay, so the diagram we'd be drawing would be this diagram here into our notes copy. Okay, thanks for watching, folks.